Xerxes, because that's what his name meant in Greek, was ruler of everything from Africa all the way into Europe. He was a king of great pride. He wanted to show off. So he designated 120 days of feasting and merriment and a place for the king to show his greatness. His prize was when you came into the front of his palace as a visitor to display his horses. Even the Arabian horse goes back to that period of time. And he would have hundreds of pure white Arabian stallions with their heads bowed over in that beautiful walk they have, and graced with blankets of jewelry hung around their neck and across their backs. When you went into his banquet hall, the large tables were covered with goblets of pure gold and gold plates to eat off of. It was showing Xerxes' power, his wealthiness, and his pride. Next to the horses were number one, were the king's wives. They came just under horses. So he had them parade as well. Now, every society has what it considers beautiful. And so these were the ladies of that day. They were considered the most beautiful. And he had them bathed for weeks in perfume. Talk about smelling good. He had them bedecked in garments of silk, wearing jewelry so that they had to stand very regally just to hold up all the pearls and diamonds and rubies and jewels they were wearing. After all the guests had been fed and had had the best wine and had seen everything, he brought out his number one. That was the queen. She was the most beautiful, the most richly dressed in all of the world known at that time. And so he ordered 7 servants, eunuchs, go present the queen, bring her out, let my guests see her. They went into the queen's chamber and she said, "Oh, my hair's not fixed right, my lipstick's not on right, I'm not going out there, I'm not presented right." And she refused the king. It hurt his pride. Now, ladies, let me tell you, every husband's key pride is his wife. He wants everybody to respect her. He wants everybody to recognize her. It's the key to his wealth. It's the key to his prestige. It's the key to who he is. It's the key to how blessed he is. Vashti, you better come. Now, everybody thinks she's my daughter because I'm 80 years old. All right, sure. It cost me a lot of money to have her look this good, I'll tell you that. But Vashti refuses to come, and the king is furious. So he's going to get him another one. And he sends out all over the kingdom, find the most beautiful virgins in the world, bring them before me. After he has seen them all, he has a favorite. The book of Esther, the 2nd chapter, verse 16. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus. That's his Hebrew name. His Greek name is Xerxes. Into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 70th year of his reign. 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace, now I'm pausing for a reason, and favor. What is favor? Favor comes from the root word favorite. Let me put it this way, the favorite gets the favor. Let me say it again. The favorite gets the favor. In his sight were all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast, the feast of Esther. Now he's doing it even bigger. He's calling it the feast of Esther, her feast. Of all his officials and servants, proclaimed a holiday in all the provinces and gave gifts according to the generosity of the king. He gives gifts to all the people, all the provinces. I want you to know, it's pride again. I want you to know how great a king I am. And how can you know? Look at Esther. Look at her beauty. Look at all of the jewelry I've displayed upon her, and you'll know how great a man I am. Just take a look at Esther. Why? Because she's my favorite, and she has favor. God acts the same way. Now, some of you look at me, God has favorites? Yes, he does. Turn with me to the book of Luke, chapter 1. And let's look at verse 29. But when she saw him, an angel, she was troubled as saying, and considered what manner of greeting this was. And the angel said to her, do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. Now, Mary wasn't the only virgin in Israel. It wasn't rare in those days, and she was probably 13 or 14 years old. But God looked at all of the maidens of Israel. He did like King Xerxes. He looked at all the women of Israel, all the girls. And he said, that one. That one. She's my favorite. She's going to have my favor. Behold, you'll conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he'll reign over the house of Jacob forever. Of his kingdom there will be no end. Now, with favor comes certain blessings. One blessing is position. Mary in theology is called the Mother of God. Highly recognized among women. Put on a pedestal. We even make statues of Mary. Talk about how wonderful she is. Whenever you get God's favor, you're going to be put into God's position. Turn with me to the book of Genesis, the 39th chapter. Genesis 39, and let's look at verse 1. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. Here's the young Jewish boy, and he's being sold into slavery. The Lord was with Joseph. And he was a successful man. He was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Wait a minute, he was a slave. But the Lord had favor. And his master saw the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made him all that he did prosper in his hand. So Joseph found, there it is, favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house and all that he'd put under his authority. When he gets favor, what? He gets the position. Genesis 39, verse 20. So Joseph's master took him, put him into prison. He's falsely accused, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. He was in prison, and the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the king of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed Joseph and all the prisoners within the prison, wherever he did there, he was doing. So the keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made to prosper. And Joseph becomes the prime minister of Egypt. Why? Because he has the favor of God. He is a favorite. Now, how does he get that way? Because there's other prisoners, other people. But Joseph does such an extraordinary work as a servant of Potiphar. He does such extraordinary work while he's in the prison. He is so extraordinary in his demeanor and his work while he's in the king's palace that he receives the king's favor. Personal illustration. I was a private in the Air Force in Warner Robins, Georgia. I was walking out of the post exchange. For those folks who aren't military, it's the drugstore. I had a bag with me, and in the top of the bag is sitting a glass bottle of shampoo. I step out on a wooden step to walk down, and all of a sudden my heart goes into my stomach. Here is a general walking up the stairs with all his aides. I mean, he's got fruit salad, what we call fruit salad, ribbons from here to here. No. Tough-looking guy. His face looks like a piece of leather. Well, I got to do what the private does. You know, I got to salute. Sir. When my hand goes up, the bottle of shampoo goes down in slow motion. And it hits the step and it breaks all over the general's trousers. Sir, I'm sorry, sir. Can I have this cleaned for you, sir? May I take care of this, sir? I apologize deeply, sir. I'm still standing there this way. Anything I can do, sir? He looks at my face and smiles. That was the kiss of death as far as I was concerned. He reached in his back pocket and took out a handkerchief and wiped the shampoo off his pants, all the time looking up at me. I'm still froze, still apologizing. Reaches in his pocket, takes out his wallet, pulls out a $1 bill, hands it to me and says, "Here, son, go buy yourself another bottle of shampoo." And walks by me. I'm going, oh. I didn't know what I was receiving. And what I was receiving? Favor. Now, the very next morning, the sergeant called me to his office. He said, "Willis, you're," and he used an impolite word, "has had it. You are to report to General Claire Chennault, the Flying Tiger, this morning." He'd read my little tag, had my name on it. So I went to the general's office. saluted him. He said, Willis, these aren't exact words, but the best I can remember. He says, look, I'm a flying general. I don't like paperwork. I've been called back to duty as a reserve officer to get all the records now. He'd already been discharged, but he says, I've been called to get the records of the Flying Tigers from fighting from before World War II. I don't like this paperwork. So I've had you assigned with me to type them up and file them for me. Can you do that? Yes, sir. I can do that. Now, there were other file clerks, and that's all they're doing, filing papers. And they'd come to work in a pair of fatigues, these green jumpsuits like, you know. Not this boy. I went and bought gabardine uniforms, kind of officers use. I had a Flying Tiger patch sewn on my sleeve. I was working for the general. I was not only filing the papers, I found out what kind of coffee he drank, and it was on his desk every morning, hot. I decided I'd take care of that man. And some of you looking at me, no, you're bucking. No, I wasn't bucking for anything. I had favor working for the #1 general in the United States Air Force, and I knew it. Now, when General Chennault, he went to Congress, reported there about the Korean War, then went back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but after he left, he had me transferred. A lot of men there went to Korea to fight. I went to the National Security Agency in Washington, D.C. Well, that's called favor. Now, why did you get that favor, Pastor? Why worked it? And when I got to NSA, I went through their training program, and then I got a job. What was my job? Typing on an old Underwood typewriter and filing again. But when I reported, I didn't report in fatigues. I reported in my gabardine with my Flying Tiger on my shoulder. I was a tiger, man. I never flew an airplane, but I was still a tiger. One day, this guy come by, sharp officer, Navy lieutenant commander with all that gold. He said, son, that's a lie. I said, you speaking to me? He said, that's right. You're too young to be a Flying Tiger. I said, no, sir. I have permission from General Claire Chennault to wear this the rest of my Air Force career. He said, from Chennault himself? I said, yes. He said, you must be a good man. Would you like to work for me? Yes, sir. Rest of the time I was in the Air Force, anybody got promotion, it was me. Could have got more. I wore those gabardine uniforms. I wore that Flying Tiger, yes, sir. When he needed to go to the Pentagon, I was there with a 45 strapped on me and his case on me. When I got to open that car door for him, I opened that car door for him. He had his cup of coffee every morning on his desk, and his Washington Post turned right to the place it was on. Yes, sir, I will do that. What? Favor brings promotion. Some of our folks need to understand it. Well, Pastor, it don't have anything to do with me as a civilian. Yes, it does. How do you go to work? Are you there 5 minutes before the boss man walks in? Or are you 10 minutes late? Well, Pastor, no. How do you present yourself? See, that was Esther's thing. She presented herself as a queen. She became the queen. Favor will produce position. Well, I don't like that down. Favor will produce position. When you give favor, you will receive favor. And favor will produce position. Number 2, favor will produce prosperity. Book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, verse 33. And the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. They said, we shall be dead. Now, these were slaves. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up on their clothes and shoulders. Now the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moses. Don't miss it. They had done according to the word of Moses. And they had asked the Egyptians for silver and articles of gold and clothing, and the Lord had given the people, there it is, favor in his sight, and the Egyptians, so they granted them what they requested. Those they plundered the Egyptians. Wait a minute. These people were slaves. But favor gives prosperity. The children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. 600,000 men on foot, besides children, a mixed multitude went with them also, with flocks and herds and a great deal of livestock. They baked unleavened cakes and dough, which they had brought out of Egypt. It's not leavened because they were driven out by the Egyptians that could not wait. Nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. They had everything they needed. All their provisions, they had gold, they had silver, they had silks, they had enough to give and build the tabernacle of God. And they had been slaves, but now, because they have God's favor, they have God's prosperity. A book of Psalms 105, verse 37. He brought them out of silver and gold. There was none feeble among the tribes. Egypt was glad when they departed, for fear of them had fallen upon them. They walked out with silver and gold and all they needed. Why? Because they had found favor with God. Favor will bring position. It will bring provision. It will bring promotion. 1 Samuel 16. Oh, come on, Paul, going the wrong way. 1 Samuel 16:6. So as came, they looked to Eliab and said, surely the Lord anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on the appearance of his physical stature, because I refuse him, for the Lord does not see as men sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So Jesse called Abinadab, made him pass before Samuel, and he said, neither the Lord chosen this one. Then Jesse made Sheman pass by. He said, neither the Lord chosen this one. Jesse made 7 of the sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord's not chosen these. And Samuel said to Jesse, are there young men here? Then he said, there remains yet one youngest. He's out keeping the sheep. Samuel said to Jesse, bring him here, for we will not sit down till he comes here. So he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, bright eyes, good looking. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him. He's the one. Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David. So from that day forward, so Samuel rose and went to Ramah. And the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and a distressing spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Saul's servants said to him, surely the distressing spirit from God is troubling you. Let us, master, now command to your servants who are before you to seek out a man who's skillful, a player of the harp. And it shall be that he will play with his hand when the distressing spirit from God is upon you, and you shall be well. So Saul said to his servants, provide me such a man who can play well, and bring him to me. And one of the servants answered and said, look, I have seen the son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who's skillful in playing, mighty man of valor, a man of war, prudent in speech, handsome person, and the Lord is with him. Therefore Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, send me your son David, who is with the sheep. And Jesse took a donkey, loaded them with bread and skin and wine, and a young goat, and sent him by his son to David to Saul. Wow. David becomes what? King of Israel. But he's just a shepherd boy. Just tends the sheep. But he tends the sheep well. When the wolf comes, David doesn't run. When the lion comes, David doesn't run. When he sees Goliath, he says, who is this Philistine that he'll challenge the people of God? But he's just a shepherd boy. When he comes to Saul, what does he do? He sits before the king and plays his harp. What? Whatever needed to be done, David would do. And when he did it and did it well, God gives him favor so that he becomes the king of Israel. Now, I want you to know, folks, get a hold of this. I have a lot of people coming to me as a pastor or sending me an email, Pastor, pray for this, pray for that, pray for the other thing. And I won't tell them, you're asking me to pray for the wrong thing. What? Now, what you need is favor. Well, I need a new job. No, what you need is favor. Well, Pastor, you don't know. I'm looking for a wife. What you need is favor. Well, yeah, I want God to send me one. Well, brush your teeth and use some Listerine.
What's Christianity all about? Well, of course it's about Jesus Christ. His life reported in the Gospels. But which Gospel was written first? Do you know? You say, well, they're Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Oh, how many of the writers of the Gospels were actually disciples of Jesus? How many were there at the time of the writing of the Gospel? All of them? 2 of them? None of them. We're going to discuss those questions about Jesus and how the church decided on which scripture was going to be in the Gospels in the series. What's Christianity all about? Every Sunday evening at the Cathedral of His Glory, and we invite you to come. 6 o'clock to 7:30, a frank discussion of what Christianity is all about and help you to know more and more about Jesus and about your Christian heritage. That's what Christianity is all about every Sunday evening at 6 o'clock here at the Cathedral of His Glory.
You ain't going to get a woman to kiss you when you smell like that. Take a bath, buddy. Well, Pastor, I'm looking for a husband. Well, quit looking like a charwoman that's been out there scrubbing the floor. Now, Pastor, you know, if you want favor, you act like you're going to get favor. And you present yourself in a way to receive the favor. Now, you can pray all you want to. It's like the guy at Rhema that Brother Hagin told about. He said he sat there on the second row in school and he looked over at this gal that was up there in the choir. And he said, Lord, I believe with all my heart she's going to marry me. Lord, I'm claiming her. She's going to be my bride. Lord, she's going to be my sweetheart. I'm claiming her by faith. Hagin said she didn't marry him. She married the fella next to him that was telling her, oh, you're so pretty and I love you so much. Telling the Lord didn't do it. Telling her did. You got a hold of that stuff. We were in Tulsa, Oklahoma to go to ORU. I was getting my doctorate. And Dennis was graduating from Rhema Bible College. We were going to a banquet. Other people were carrying their wives. Others were carrying their sweethearts. Dennis didn't have either one. And there was an empty chair next to him to go with. And God wasn't filling it. But he decided, he had his eye on a certain young lady, and he went and said, Lana, would you do me a favor? Hello? My mom and dad are down here. Would you at least come to the banquet with me? Her reply was, well, Dennis, I was wondering why you never asked me. He's asking for what? Favor. And when we were leaving, we had rented a motorhome, and we went by Rhema, and it just happened. And I said, just happened. Listen, folks, God, there's no just happens. When we pulled up in the lot to get Dennis's books and stuff together, Lana Barnes was walking across the parking lot, going over to choir practice, because she was a singer. And Dennis said, Dad, open the door. So I opened the door. He looked out and said, Lana. She turned, He said, pack your bags. When you graduate, I'm going to come back and marry you. And the door closed, and we drove away. And I said, Dennis, do you know you could be sued for, you asked that girl to marry you? He said, no, I didn't, Dad. I said, yes, you did. I heard you. You could be sued for breach of promise. We took our time coming back, got to the post office. I had an envelope in there. This wasn't me. It smelled too good for me. I said, Dennis, this one's for you. He kind of cut off to the side so he could read it, Started laughing. I said, what's this? It says, all it says is my bags are packed. Woo! You know what that's called? Favor. Favor. Well, Pastor, what should I ask for? Turn with me to the book of James, the first chapter, the second verse. I'm glad you asked. James 1:2. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that your testing your faith produces patience. Let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect, complete, lacking nothing. If any one of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally without reproach, and it will be given to him. Let him ask in faith, not doubting. He who doubts is like a wave on the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. Let not that man suppose he'll receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Now, what does it mean there? What do you do? Solomon knew he didn't ask for money. He asked for wisdom. Yes, if I have God's wisdom and have God's knowledge, I'll get God's favor, then I'll have God's prosperity. Yes, hello, folks. So what do you ask for? God, give me wisdom. And if you ask, not doubting, what do you mean not doubting? Don't question it when you get it. Uh-oh. God's answer may not meet your peanut brain. God may tell you to do something that just doesn't make any sense at all. Turn with me to Luke 21. There it is. Verse 1. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. In this way he showed himself. Simon Peter, Thomas, called the twin, Nathanael, Cana of Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, the two others, the disciples, were together. Simon Peter said to them, I'm going fishing. They said to him, we're going with you also. They went out immediately, got into the boat, and then that night caught nothing. But when the morning had now come, Jesus stood on the shore. The disciples did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to them, children, have you any food? They said to him, no. He said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. So they cast, and now they were not able to draw it because of the multitude of fish. Wait. These are fishermen. We've been out fishing all night long, haven't caught a thing. Well, you've been throwing the net on the wrong side of the boat. Oh, come on. What difference does it matter which side of the boat I throw the net out on? Now, this don't make sense. I've been fishing in the Sea of Galilee, haven't caught a thing. No, but throw the net out on the right side. When you're asking God for an answer, a double-minded man will start thinking it out and saying, well, that isn't the right answer. It doesn't make sense. That's double-minded. That's when you're saying, oh, God, I asked you for an answer. God gave you the answer. Then you reason yourself out of the answer. Hello, folks. Well, that don't make sense. Understand the way man wants to do it and the way God does it may be totally different to your pea brain. Every time I got up in the morning for the last couple of years, I've been saying, God, give me $1 million. What, Pastor? Yeah. I need $1 million to pay off the debt on this church. Lord, send someone out there off the streets to come in and drop $1 million in the offering. God, I believe you can do it. God, I believe you're going to do it this Sunday. God, do it. God, we've got to pay this debt off. Do it. Even had prophecy it was going to happen. And it didn't. Well, Pastor, you were missing God. No. I was telling God how to do it. And then when Dennis came in my office and said, Dad, there's an opportunity here. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we need to put a charter school in this church. I said, what are you talking about? We don't need a charter school in this church. Bunch of children running all over the place, making noise, tearing things up. No. He said, Dad, it's going to bless all of the parents, all of the school. It's going to bless all of the children. Well, yeah, it will do that. Dad, did you build the church and this 28 acres of land you bought here, 29 now, did you get that for beauty or did you get it for people? And I said, well, people. He said, aren't these children people? I said, yeah, they're people. Well, Dad, they want to rent all the property. Rent. Mm-hmm. And they're going to set it up in 5 years. They will pay off the $1 million you owe. What? God, that isn't the way I wanted you to do it. But the answer is, Paul, hadn't you rather bless a bunch of people than one person? What do you mean? Well, see, if one person gave you the $1 million, I'd have to give him the blessing. But now, if all these parents and these kids and the program here gives you $1 million, then I got to bless all those people. Oh. And God, you'd rather bless a bunch than one. Now you got it, son. Throw your net on the right side of the boat. See, but what happens is we ask for wisdom, and then God gives us the wisdom, and we say no. Lord, I'm praying about a mate. Okay, I just showed her to you. But she isn't the one I got in my dreams. Well, the one you got in your dream is going to hurt you. The one I'll give you, that's the good one. You need to quit looking on the outside and start looking on the inside, the heart, okay? Now, how do I get God's blessing? Keep God's commandments. What? Proverbs, look at Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, 1st verse. You see, when God said throw the net on the right side, you do it. Proverbs 3:1. My son, do not forget my law, Let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace they'll add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. And you'll find what? Favor. You'll find favor and high esteem in the sight of man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your path. You will find favor when you do what he told you to do. Oh. Well, Pastor, you don't understand. I can't pay my bills. Don't look at me that way. Yeah, I'm going to go that way. What? Book of Malachi. Oh, Pastor, 3rd chapter, 8th verse. I got to tell you, because I don't, I'm cheating you. Malachi, I know people, tighten up. Malachi 3:8. Will a man rob God? Yet you've robbed me. You say, how we robbed you? With tithes and offerings. You're cursed with a curse. Huh? You robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring your tithe into the storehouse and make me food in my house, and try me. Test me, saith the Lord of hosts. If I'll not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, there will be not room enough to receive it. I will rebuke the destroyer for your sake. He'll not destroy the fruit of your ground, nor shall your vine fail to bear fruit for you in the field, saith the Lord of hosts, and the nations will call you blessed, and you'll be delightful, saith the Lord of hosts. What's that? Favor. Well, I don't believe it's in the New Testament. Wait. Jesus said, the Pharisees tithe even the smallest mint and cumin, the little seed. This you ought to do and add to it. That's your offerings. You say, well, Pastor, I can't get a promotion. Pastor, I can't get a job. Pastor, I can't do this. Pastor, I haven't got enough money to tithe. Yes, you have. What? A tithe is 10%. Whether it's $10 or $10 million. Tithe just the same. Oh. Man told me the other day, I got to keep it in confidence, but he told me the other day, he finally got a hold of this after years. He's supposed to tithe. And he was on the bottom. He was facing bankruptcy. And he started tithing. Now, when you start tithing, God's going to test you if you're going to keep your word. If you really want to keep it, he says, I'm going to test you and you can test me. Then it was a meeting, and the Lord said, now, you got $3,000 altogether, give it to the man. Huh? All I got. Yeah. But I said, give it in faith. He did. I forget how many weeks later he told me he had to check over $100,000 given to him. No, test me. God said, wait a minute, you want my favor with this thing? Then you do what I told you to do. Well, you don't understand, Pastor. Yeah, I do understand. I have never had a man come to my office or a woman saying they had financial need, they're going to lose the house and everything. When I ask them a question, are you a tither? They'll say no. And I say, why not? You wouldn't be in this fix if you were. You got to be steward of all of it, but you've got to obey God with the 10%. I would love to tell you all the times, how many times God showed us, me and Mary, his favor because we keep his word. But he said, if you want to try me, you want my wisdom, you keep my word, okay? Now, let's go to Luke 6:37. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put in your bosom. For the same measuring stick you use, it will be measured back to you. Can't go any further than that. Same measuring stick you use to give. Well, God's not going to drop it from heaven. No, he says, men will give into your bosom. No, I'm running out of time. I got to tell you one. Come on. We were absolutely broke. The rent was due. We were living in a shack in Dunn. I couldn't describe it any other way, but you had to wipe the soot off the wall. And the owner collected his rent on a given day, and he owned a bunch of these row houses, and he went from one to the other picking up his money. And I didn't have it. I walked out waiting for him to tell him I didn't have it, and I knew what he does. He says, well, you don't pay me, you get out of here. That was his thing. So here I was waiting to tell him I didn't have the money. And the postman comes up. And he said, are you Cleveland? I said, yeah, but I don't use that name. He said, are you Cleveland? Yeah. He said, I got a registered letter for you. Yeah, here came the man to collect the money. Here came the postman. I said, all right. He said, you need to sign here. I signed for it. Opened it up. There's the check. I handed it to him and says, give me the change. He looked at me and said, how do you do that? It was a check on our GI insurance from 10 years before. They'd been looking for me. And it paid it off. See, God knew I would need it at that time. And if he'd given it to me a week before, I'd have spent it. Some of you looking at me. You walk that way. Yeah, it's called favor. Sometimes I wish you'd do it better. Okay. Whatever you're doing, seek the good. I got to go on. Proverbs, the 11th chapter. There's so much in here I want to give it to you. Proverbs 11:27. He who earnestly seeks good finds favor. Trouble will come to him who seeks evil. If you're seeking God's good for other people, God will bring you his good. You'll receive the favor that he has for you when you're seeking good for other people. Book of Proverbs, the 14th chapter, the 9th verse. Always be around doing good. Fools mock at sin, but among the upright there's favor. Don't laugh at sin. That's foolish. But an upright man will seek favor. You want a job? You need favor. The boss man will give it to you, or somebody else will hire you if you have God's favor. You need a better boss? God give you a favor. If you'll be a better employee, you'll get a better boss. You need romance. God will give you a favor and make you attractive in somebody else's eyes. I was at a store yesterday morning. Made me feel good. I wasn't buying but $3 worth of stuff. Something for Mary. And the lady behind the counter said, hi, darling. Well, did I know you? She said, no, but that's all right, dear. Ah. Now, Dad always said when they called you darling or dear, it was either because you were young and handsome and they wanted romance, or you were wealthy and rich and old. Well, she was wrong on both accounts, okay? But when I left, she said, thank you, darling. I said, you don't know how good that made me feel. Made me feel like I'm a young, handsome man. I appreciate it. Need money? God will give you an opportunity. Favor with God will produce favor with men. Look at Esther one more time. Go back to the book of Esther, the 4th chapter, verse 15. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go gather the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise, and so I will go to the king, which is against the law. If I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way, and Esther did according to the favor that God had commanded her. All that Esther had commanded him. What had happened? If the king didn't raise the golden sepulchre, you couldn't go in his presence. The decree had come out to kill Esther and all the Jews. she went and stood in the doorway. That's all she did, stand in the doorway. And King Xerxes looked at that, and he looked at that. Oh, she was dressed in a royal robe. She was wearing her jewelry. And King Xerxes looked again. Yeah. Third or fourth time. And I tell you what, when you got favor, somebody's going to look at you. He looked again. And she stepped in. Now, all he had to do is not raise the golden scepter, and she'd lost her life. And he says, come here, darling. You have found favor with the king. And she went and put her hand on the scepter. And he said, everything you ask, even half my kingdom, you've got it. All you've got to do is ask. It reversed the government policy. It reversed the salvation for the Jews. It reversed the kingdom of God. It reversed the Bible. And the evil man, Haman, who had wanted to kill her, got hung on his own gallows. Why? Favor. Are you understanding what I need in my life? What do I need in my life? God, I need money. Well, maybe so. God, I need romance. Maybe so. God, I need provision. Maybe so. But the main thing you need is the favor of God. It'll get you everything else. Bow your head with me.
Ladies, we have been on a very powerful series the last few months, speaking to individuals who are broken, who have gone through difficult circumstances in their lives, and they're needing a miracle from God, a healing, a restoration. And so many individuals have really been experiencing that over the past few months as we've been coming together. And this next month, not October, but November, we are meeting the second Monday in November, and we're having a special presentation. We are working on a drama right now that is going to be speaking to individuals of coming out of the darkness into the light. And even though we may have found Christ, there are times that we are experiencing circumstances in our life that we feel trapped in darkness. We feel trapped in circumstances, and we don't know how to break free. We might go to church every Sunday. We might say that we're a Christian. We might read. We may be praying, God, give me this deliverance. Give me this freedom. And we're really seeing him move in a powerful way. There are some things that do not happen outside of the anointing of God. And I want to tell you and speak to you today that the anointing of God has been so powerful in these meetings that women's lives have been transformed. He wants to touch your life. He wants to change you. He wants to rearrange you. And he wants to come into your heart and your soul and renew your love and your restoration again. Give you a hope, bringing us out of the darkness into the light. We're presenting this in November. I encourage you to come, invite friends, invite women that are hurting.